I'm an occupational therapist here at JLD, and today we're going to talk about OT in general. What is OT? What can we do to help our kids' skills and other things like that? So I do have a question over here on my laptop. Let me go read it out loud. It says, what do OTs or how do OTs identify challenges and improve the related skills? Okay, so as OTs, we do a lot of clinical observation. So we're looking a lot at the underlying skills that they have, what they're presenting with, and we kind of go from there. So a good example is you have a child that has a hard time sitting and doing tabletop activities. So as OTs, what we would see are they getting their sensory needs met? Are they really fidgety? Do they need something to kind of fidget with? A good fidget that we like to have is a pop-it. Let me see if I can find it here. So a pop-it, something really small like this, is a good fidget for them, and it's quiet, so it won't distract other people. And then, do they have trouble seeing what's on the paper? Sometimes when we're writing things, it might be easier for us to write really, really close like this and see it. Sometimes it's easier if we see it from far away. So we look at skills like that, like are they able to see what's on the paper or what's on the board? Is the task too hard for them? So if we have a kid with weaker fine motor skills, and they're holding their pencil like this, and they're an older child, maybe the task is too hard for them. If they're holding their pencil like this, it could mean that they don't have the fine motor strength or skills to hold the pencil in our tripod grasp like this, and that's why they're holding it like this and they're kind of scribbling. It's hard for them, so we need to find ways to develop their muscle strength so we're able to start holding it like this in a tripod grasp. If we see our kid that's really slumped over like this, we could look at their posture. Do they have good core strength to keep themselves upright? A lot of the times with our kids, we have lower core strength, so it's really hard for them to keep steady and upright while they're doing a fine motor task. Are they bored of it? A lot of the times we'll have our kids do kind of repetitive tasks that a lot of kids don't find meaningful and they think it's boring, and that's when you have sometimes behaviors where they're eloping, they're leaving, they don't want to do it, they're saying no, and maybe it's too boring for them, they don't see meaning in it, they are like, why are we doing this? So trying to make a task like that a little bit more fun, it might be more motivating and more engaging to them. So overall, again, OTs look at everything and we kind of figure out, okay, what are we having challenges with? What is the context we're having challenges with? Is it with the seating? Is it with our bodies? Is it with our vision? Is it with maybe the light is too bright? Maybe it's too loud in this room. Maybe it's too quiet in this room. And we kind of take all of that into account when we're looking at the child and how they're performing. So our second question we have are like, what areas of development can OTs address? So there's a bunch of areas of development that OTs can address, but I'll talk briefly about motor skills, sensory processing, attention, and also zones of regulation. So for motor skills, it's all of the motor skills. So gross motor skills like running, jumping, climbing, fine motor skills like bilateral coordination, which would be kind of like moving things from side to side. It could be in-hand manipulation, so taking kind of like a coin and being able to manipulate it into your fingers. This is also dexterity, moving it like this way too. And then we also have gross motor skills, like I said earlier, which would be like praxis, which is kind of motor planning. So if you look at a rock climbing wall, how would you get from the ground all the way up to the top, and how would you get back down? That's a lot of motor planning. And also, okay, now we're going to talk about sensory processing. So for sensory processing, it's a very wide field. When you think sensory, you think hear, touch, smell, eyesight, and everything else that you think of, like smell. For sensory processing, what we do is we help kids be able to tolerate certain textures and certain sensations a little bit better. We do have kids that can't tolerate bathing activities. They might not like the feel of it, so we might recommend different modifiers. So maybe instead of using a washcloth, maybe just use your hands, and that might be less irritating for a kid. And then a lot of sensory things also relate to what we call interoception. It's kind of like how your body feels and knowing what your body is feeling. So especially kind of a lot like anger. when you get mad, you could feel yourself getting angry. Maybe your vision gets a little bit fuzzy, maybe you clench your fist when you get angry, and a lot of that is just bringing awareness to what your body is feeling. That's more interoception, which is also a sensory thing. And then we also have things like proprioception, which is where your body is in space. So sometimes you'll see a kid that will be clumsy, as we say, but it's more of they don't really know where their body is in space. So in order to know where their body is in space, they're kind of like bump around, kind of trip over things like that. And those bumping against something is a really good deep pressure that helps them figure out where their body is in space. And as OTs, we help them get that sensory need met where they're able to figure out where their body is in space, and they're able to do things a little bit more safely, and they won't seem as clumsy as well. So moving on into attention. So our basic hierarchy of needs is water, food, and shelter. I also like to categorize sensory underneath that. So a really good example of getting all of these needs met helps with attention would be, imagine a time when you are really, really hungry and someone is trying to tell you something like, I need you to go take out the garbage, wash the dishes, do this, but you're so hungry, all you can think about is being hungry. So what I like to say is, after you get that need met, after you eat something, you're able to go back to that person and say, okay, what did you want me to do again? And then you're able to be like, okay, I understand what you want me to do, now I can go do that. Because once you get that sensory need met, it also helps with that attention. Now you're able to attend a lot better to what is being asked of you. And then the last thing I have right now is zones of regulation. So the zones of regulation is pretty much a tool that helps you identify how you're feeling. So there are 4 different colors. There is the blue zone, the green zone, the yellow zone, and the red zone. The blue zone is more lower energy, kind of like sad, very tired, maybe sick. The green zone is where we typically want people to be, where it is you're feeling happy, content, ready to learn. The yellow zone is a little higher energy, where you're maybe a little bit silly, a little bit wiggly, maybe a little bit frustrated, maybe a little bit worried. And the red zone is feeling like out of control. So we get anger, like mad, frightened, scared, like all those really big emotions. So we like to use these zones of regulation to help kids identify where they're feeling and how to get them in the most optimal state. And we like to encourage everyone that it's okay. Whatever zone you're in, green zone, yellow zone, red zone, blue zone, that's okay. We just need to go find a way to make us feel better, to help us get to the green zone. But if you're feeling in the blue zone, that's okay. If you're feeling in the red zone, that's fine too. But what can we do to make us feel better? That's pretty much the whole point of the zones of regulation. And then I have a last question here. What kinds of activities do kids do in occupational therapy? Now, here at JLD, we're very child-led. When we think about occupations, we think about jobs. And that's not necessarily true. Occupations is anything that occupies your time. So for a kid, what occupies a child's time? So playing, learning, exploring, all of those things would occupy a child's time. And for us, our child's job is to learn about their environment, learn about their skills, learn about how they work their bodies, things like that. So here at JLD with play, they're able to learn so many different skills, and we see a lot of creativity in their approaches to play. So when children gravitate towards a specific item or activity, it is very intrinsically motivating for them. So we like to encourage that motivation and that creativity, and we can also build on that too. So for example, a child has a challenging time using the pincer grasp because they have a decreased strength in their hands. When we see them gravitating something towards like the kitchen play set, we can still do kitchen play and work on the pincer grasp by building those intrinsic hand muscles. We can tear paper into smaller pieces, kind of like this, and we can use them as sprinkles for cupcakes or a cake. We can also use this, our pincer, or our tongs, to develop the hand muscles, and we can pick small things up, like that. And things like that are very fun and creative for kids, and they're very motivating for kids. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, give us a call at 408-337-2727.